Welcome back to the Jambalaya with the Kingfish. And in the house with us, we have none other than all around great guy, restaurateur. Is that how you say it?
Yes, sir.
Restaurateur, gadfly sometimes, and veteran, combat veteran, actually. None other than Jackson's own Stephen O'Neill. Thank you very much for coming on today, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So, how is the restaurant business this week?
The restaurant business is good. It's summertime. You know, we have our highs and lows, people going on vacation, but it's nice and steady. 11 years in business, and we're kind of used to this time of the year and know what to expect.
And you're co-owner of
Applos and Jackson.
But not
and
Ridgeland.
then just Manship. Yes, sir.
And the Manship. Who's got Applos and Ridgeland?
That's some of our investors went with that, and then Alex Eaton.
Okay, gotcha. How has the Manship been this week?
Oh, it's been good. You know, we've had it started off crappy. We had the storms Monday morning at 7:30 took down a power line.
That's not fun.
And so we were without power, had to kill lunch service, and weren't able to open till 3. We were scrambling to get ready because we already had a wine dinner on the books for that night. So we were trying to prep food with no cooking. And
that's not easy.
It's always fun. So I was calling around town, scrambling, trying to get my catering chef into somebody else's kitchen just in case they didn't get it back on in time. Luckily, Entergy got us back live about 1:30.
That all my friends in the restaurant business, it seems that's a common theme, is you're always reacting to something. And you can plan all you want, you can plan ahead, do all that, but you're always reacting to something.
Yes. We depend on people.
Yeah.
People don't show up. We rely on power, water, all the things, you know, that are essential. But when one of those things goes out outside of our control, then it's, you know, how do we adapt and overcome?
Well, I bet you haven't had to worry about, it's been nice not having to worry about water the last couple of years.
Absolutely amazing.
I remember talking to you when when water was it would just come and go, and you were just fit to be tied.
Yes. You know, we were running water trailers to outlying counties and picking up water and using external pumps to push water into the kitchen.
And how much extra money was that costing you?
All of our margins. I mean, it was costing us $1,000 plus a week when the water was out.
And that's including the canned drinks and all that too that you had to go buy, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So at that point, you're just serving drinks just to appease, like serving water and doing things like that. You're not even making money. You're just providing it because you have to for your guests.
Wow. Don't want to go back to that again, huh?
Definitely not.
And then you started Applos. What made y'all start that?
We wanted something that could be a manager-run model that didn't have to be as owner hands-on and whatnot. Easier counter service.
What do you mean exactly?
So full-service restaurants generally require more effort, especially chef-driven, bar-driven like we are. It just is. It's harder to train people everything that's in our heads, so to speak. Whereas Applos is a consistent menu. It can be replicated. It can be manager run. So it doesn't take as much owner presence as some of the other
as
concepts.
much creativity.
You know.
Yeah. I like hearing, like I said, my friends in the restaurant business, it's because it is people driven. So you're almost like a football coach having to manage different personalities and different psychologies and stuff. I mean, it's just
for sure.
Hearing all the complaints. I mean, how has the restaurant scene been in Jackson since COVID and the shutdowns ended? Has it fully recovered, or what would you say?
I'd say for the most part we've recovered. I mean, COVID changed everybody's patterns. Everybody's circle got a lot tighter. Things happened. I mean, you piled COVID on, then you piled the water crisis on. There was a large crime wave in Jackson, also that kind of overlapped during some of that time as well.
How'd you stay in business?
And so we, it got really hard because we don't get as many outside of the Tri-County area diners that we used to. Jackson's still got probably, in my opinion, the strongest high-quality restaurant scene in the Tri-County, but you're seeing more and more restaurants open in Madison and Brandon.
Well, you're starting to see
places like that.
I would say Renaissance is starting to kind of catch up because now they got Kessler and they have 463 Kate.
Yep.
They got 2 more on the other end. Then you got the 5. I mean, they're kind of
it's a force. And then you have, here in Madison, you got places like Foxtail and the Rabbit Hole out at Lost Rabbit and other places popping up. And so it makes it easier for people not to travel further from their home
Yeah,
for a
they're
good
not coming
meal.
into Jackson like they used to, are they?
Correct. And so now it's really, we're seeing what is just Jackson only business.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's a show at Thalia which is why I've been a huge proponent for Thalia and trying to figure out what it's going to take to get it reopened. Because
What do you think about the whole Thalia thing right now?
uh, as long as
Speak
it
your
gets
mind.
opened, I'm happy with it.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's a tough situation for the city. I think John's probably ready to tackle that issue along with a lot of others. The current administration, I don't think they knew their head from a hole in the ground, and it's just trying to put more and more on Ricky Thigpen's plate with Visit Jackson, and they're already managing the
And
convention
Lord knows
complex.
they tried to micromanage him.
Yeah,
They really did.
they do. Well, and they try to raise taxes to fund city functions, and that's where I draw a big line.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were trying to go up on our 1% again, and it prices us out of the market.
Does it really make that big of a difference? I mean,
It does in total dollar value, because when you go from a 7% flat rate state tax, then to I think there's 13 or so municipalities around the state that collect a special sales tax for tourism,
right.
and almost all of that is always borne in those 13 metros, borne by the restaurants, and so then you go to 8. And then Jackson's at 9. And then, you go to 10, and it's just adding additional percentage
Right.
of tax to that total dollar bill. And so people are like, well, I pay an $18 bill over here, and it's only, $19.08 versus I pay an $18 bill here, and it's $21. And it just,
I've
it
noticed when I
starts to
go
exacerbate.
get, fried eggs and bacon for breakfast at Primo's, and then I go eat the same thing over at, Broad Street, and there's a difference.
Yeah. And I would say that more than likely Broad Street's, I love the Primos as well. But I consider Primos more of a franchise than a Broad Street operation. I'm just all
In
about
its
the
current form,
independent.
yeah.
Yes.
But it works for him.
Yeah. And they do a great job. My parents live right around the corner from a Primos. We eat breakfast and lunch there all the time. It's somewhere where I can take my dad and just have an easy meal.
I mean, I usually, they're quick. I usually get my breakfast like 5-10 minutes. It's there. I mean, service is always good. I mean,
they're consistent. Really
very
good.
consistent. I wish, I'm not crazy about at night. I wish their sides were, sometimes they're like their sides taste like they just poured them out of the can.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't cook them with any seasoning or bacon or garlic, or it doesn't have to be hot or spicy, just something, Like, I tell you, who used to be really good was that before they shut down, was that deli over at McDade's or Frugal's, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Corner Depot, whatever it was.
The hotline at the old McDade's.
I mean, I tell you what, that Thursdays, that chicken pot pie they had, hint, that chicken pot pie they had on Thursdays was really good. Their fried catfish, but that baked chicken they had every day was, if you want to eat lean and healthy, that was a really good way to go. You could always get some greens there, green vegetables there, and some baked chicken, and you were good.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of my favorites growing up. I worked at a Shell station on Old Canton Road there by Colonial Heights, or Colonial Mart Shell.
I remember that one.
For Neil McCoy.
Had a mechanic.
Yeah, and so I was part of the mechanic crew doing oil changes, inspection stickers, and full service gas. And that was one of those during the summer. I mean, we would eat
how much of a car can you work
a hot lunch. I can work on a lot. I'm pretty much exclusive Toyota and Lexus at this point.
Can you do a time and chain or time and belt?
I could if I wanted to.
Wow.
That's one of those I generally would choose to pay somebody to do it, given the time and difficulty.
Especially on what you drive.
Yeah.
Because what you drive is an 8-hour job.
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yep. Well, you pay for the knowledge to do it faster. And, I know guys that can knock that job out in 3 or 4 hours, but again, they've got the knowledge and expertise.
Because everybody I know, it's more like 6 to 8.
Yeah. So.
I mean, then Lexus just makes it hard to get into.
Yeah. Well, you have to pull the whole front of the motor off.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to, if you do it right, you pull the radiator, and it gives you extra room to work with. And that's, something,
I had one I sold a few months ago, and it was like, it took about 2 days to do it right. I mean, they had to replace motor mounts. You got to do the water pump. You got to do all that. Now, can you do drop a transmission?
I'm actually doing a motor swap for a friend this weekend for his son's first car.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. So a 1989 Land Cruiser.
You're actually doing the work yourself.
Yeah, me and my buddy and his son are all going to tackle it. Actually, after this show, I'm going to load the rest of my tools and my engine hoist on the trailer and
oh wow,
take it to his house out in Rankin County. He bought an old Land Cruiser from a
Uh-huh.
friend. It was sitting in his backyard. His buddy said, "Oh, I'll take, X amount of money for it," which he thought was a steal because he knew Land Cruisers can bring big dollars, and
Can
it
they?
had rust on it, and they can bring big
Why
money,
is that?
because they're ultra reliable. They're an iconic vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a collector market
Kind of like
behind
the
them.
kind of like the old Broncos.
Yep. So, old Land Cruisers, there's actually no vehicle in history that has had a longer tenure than the Toyota Land Cruiser.
Really? How far back
Under
does it go?
one manufacturer, 1954.
Wow, that is a long time.
So they are as old, and literally the Toyota Land Cruiser was based off the World War II Willis Jeep,
Mm-hmm.
the original, in the J25 as it's known.
Right.
And so they started the J25 after seeing the World War II Jeeps, and Toyota just made them better. And then
That's the Toyota way usually.
Yep. And then Toyota has owned Land Cruiser forever. Now Jeep has been in production just as long, but it's changed hands 5 times or more. So
And the quality they're not known for being the same either.
that they may or may not break down a little more.
I mean, 200,000 miles for a Toyota or a Lexus, it's been treated right. It's going to keep on going.
Oh yeah.
200,000 miles on a Jeep. I know somebody in the audience is going to be like, "Yeah, I got mine to 300." Okay, more power to you. Great. I know it happens, but most part, not happening.
Yeah, my 2008 has 240,000 miles on it, and I still drive it.
You and Scott Kessler, he's got that old, I think it's an Explorer he drives. He's got like over 400,000 miles on that thing, and he just been through several engines, transmissions. He just loves that thing and will just he will not get
Not
a new one.
replace it. Yeah.
Meanwhile, his wife Julie is driving the latest, greatest, and all that stuff. Because they can.
Yeah.
But it's just funny seeing what he drives. It's like, Scott, why don't you? Nah, I love this one, man. He would just rather replace every part on it.
But I've got a lot of good friends in the Toyota community and mechanics that own shops and things like that. So I've had good mentoring along the way as well, and people that are willing to help. I've always got the phone a friend option, so to speak. I'm one of the best mechanics in the world.
If you can get in like into a circle of mechanics, it's your auto repair bills are going to go down a lot.
Yeah.
I had these squatters living across the street from us over the last year.
Oh, wow.
It was a mess like you wouldn't believe. And I'm not going to lie, they were hood rats. They were ghetto as you could be. Okay. And these guys, they were squatting in the place. They even installed a stripper pole inside. The cops think it was a trap. They were running a trap house. But one thing they actually knew how to do was work. They could work on cars.
Yeah.
Look, they did my front lower control arms for me.
Mm-hmm.
Did it well. Did my timing belt for me. Replaced all my. These guys could actually do.
Good work. Yeah.
It only charged me $200 to do a lower control arm front one.
Nice.
Go get that at a shop.
No, you're not going to find that.
And did it in less than 2 hours.
Yep.
Shop would say, one of them, I'm not going to say who said it was 10 hours. 10 hours to do that. Like, oh, $3,000. $3,000 versus $200. Okay, sure.
Well, be glad you're in the South where there's no rust. You go up north
too.
and those labor rates get a lot longer because you have to fight the rust on everything.
Oh, man. What's the one car you had that you wish you still had?
Wish I still had my 1979 Bronco.
I had an 87 300Z that I bought from the JPD police auction.
Oh, wow.
It was black with T-tops. But because it was a police auction, they suspected of drugs. They had totally ripped everything apart. Even the vents were taken out, radio, everything, Only paid $2,000 for it.
Yeah.
Then I found there was this junkyard over on Highway 18 between Puckett and Brandon. And he had one, same model, been in a wreck, but everything in front of the firewall was totaled. There was not going to be another day for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But the entire interior was immaculate. And actually, it belonged to his mechanic. So I had a guy there who knew how to work on these things. So I bought the seats, I bought everything, and he just transferred it all over to me. Love that car, man. On a nice day, take those T-tops down, and you could just crank up the radio and just
blast. Yeah.
And then when I had to replace the windshield, and we took off the molding, all these rust spots were all around. Ah, shit. Now I got to get rid of this thing because it's not going to get any better. It's just going to get worse. So I went ahead and so I had to sell it. Wish I still had it.
Yep.
You look what they cost now. It's just like,
Yeah,
you know.
everything's coming back around. Everything we had when we were young is retro now, and everybody
Oh,
wants
buddy
the,
of mine in college. I mean, he had remember the Porsche 914?
Mm-hmm.
You ever see those, Daniel? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a black one. Jay Johnston, now a doctor. And, you know, and back then that was considered the cheap Porsche. I mean, I think it had a Volkswagen engine, if I'm not mistaken.
Most all of the Porsches did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think
they were flat top fours.
And there was something different about I think the engine was placed in the back, actually.
Rear engine.
Yep. Yeah. Damn, you do know your cars. I'll start calling you Marissa Torme. Shoot. Anyway. Is your biological clock ticking by any chance? But now the value of that thing now is like
through the roof.
I mean, he held on it for like 30 years, and now that thing is just through the roof. I mean, it's just, it's just amazing how that stuff comes around.
Well, it's like the VW Caravans and stuff. Those are crazy money now.
Yeah.
For the Vagabond vans, and for the if you have one of the 13 windows, those are the ones that are really through the roof.
Oh, you want to be sick? Grandfather had a 64 Vet when I was a kid, light blue convertible. I think it had like a 300 horsepower, like a 327 engine or something like that. I could be wrong, because I know some motorhead out there, gearhead's going to be out there correcting me. I know it had this.
It was a factory. Whatever,
I get it.
I'm not a vet guy. I know plenty of vet guys, but
wrecked it, totaled it when I was a junior in high school.
Oof.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I'd have been inheriting that sucker one day.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a great car.
Because those mid-60s vets, I'm sorry. I love those mid-60s vets. But no, there was one set of vets they made back in 62 or so, because Shelby Cobra's blah, were kicking their ass on the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. They were kicking everybody's asses. So they made these 5. They were like 1,000 pounds lighter. I mean, just all special handling. I mean, they made these like the souped up versions. Only had 5 of them, and I think Saints owner had 1 of them. I mean, those things are like probably $1 million an hour. So
I'm sure.
But what's funny about listening to you guys in the restaurant business is, because some other friends that own restaurants, it's just the ups and downs of what you have to deal with. I mean, people don't show up half the time. You got people that've got criminal records, for example. That's always interesting. I mean, what are some of the challenges you have with employees over the years?
I mean, for the most part, it's
tell us some of the war stories. We want war stories.
So, not too long ago, I mean, in the last 2 years, I had a manager, no less, and somebody I'd just promoted in the kitchen to kind of help maintain quality at nighttime and watch the line and keep the guys straight and whatnot. And the kitchen had closed, and he went out to get a drink from the bar, and there were some ladies sitting at the bar, and my kitchen manager at that time sexually harassed 2 of our guests. And it was absolutely just asinine. I could not believe the words that he had said.
Well, I mean, give us an idea. You don't have to quote it, but just give us an idea.
Something about going home and going down on him.
Yeah, it wasn't about, oh, man, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that dress.
That dress is beautiful.
Yeah.
No, it was very vulgar.
Yeah.
And he tried to deny it, and I was like, look, you can tell by the body language, because I don't have audio on our video system, but I do have a video system. But you could tell by the body language of him, when he said it, the reaction and whatnot. And my other team members heard it, and it immediately got back to me, and he was terminated that night. I mean, at 10:30 at night.
What was his defense?
I didn't say it. I mean, he really tried to hold true to the story, and I just said, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it.
What was the story?
That I was just asking them for their phone number.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, this still isn't the place for that either.
No, I mean, they're a customer. You're not supposed to. I mean,
they're there to enjoy themselves. If they wanted you to have their number, they'd give it to you.
Exactly. Which sometimes they do.
And sometimes that does happen.
Yeah.
I met my first wife that way.
Oh, how'd you meet her?
I was working at the Bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
And she was with some mutual friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that just over time, it kindled itself, and the relationship led to marriage, and it was what it was. And it ran its course. And
amazing how many people in the restaurant business, that's how they met, I think.
Yeah.
I think Julian Scott met that way.
You were a lot of times you're married to your restaurant
what
first.
about Derek and Jennifer? Were they how'd they meet?
They may have worked together at Schimmel's.
That's what I thought. Boy, that was a restaurant that flopped. I mean, it started out so well, and then just, I think when they lost their chef is when it started going downhill, and then it just, clientele change, and then just, I think they had management problems too. I mean, that location was a great location. I mean, but it should have been, just.
It was a great building. I can remember going to cigar parties there when they would have the folks come up from Central America and hand roll cigars and do stuff like that.
And it's not even there now. I mean, it's
the American Cancer Society.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I mean, not all progress is great, and what's going to be interesting is watching Walker's right now because, that guy's took away their parking lot and building that whatever it is next door to a piano bar or whatever it's supposed to be. And so the parking's about to be fun because the only way I can say they can make it work is the valet parking. I mean, because my understanding is, people like to use that old Kolb's parking lot across the street, but I think that's about to close down for construction. So then the real fun's going to start, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness David Farr and them got that parking garage built.
Yeah.
And so there is a nice little breezeway, and you've got the parking garage there, and so, and it was one of those. I mean, heck, people come to Manship and they have to park in a garage, and we were one of the first to, to set that tone. Where you didn't have line of sight to the front door.
Right.
The Highland Village parking lot is just as big as Manships or having to go from the garage to the restaurant. But a lot of times the perception is different because you don't have line of sight to the front door.
Exactly.
And that's another, it's a perception thing.
But,
the distance from the parking garage through the breezeway up to Walker's is not that far. But at the end of the day, you don't have line of sight.
And people don't feel comfortable walking around at night, even in Fondren that much, I mean,
sometimes.
That's why I understand. I mean, I think what they're going to have to, I think they'll have to do valet parking. They'll have to. Yeah. I mean, people will be okay with that. They'll be comfortable with it. As long as they don't see their cars being, like in Ferris Bueller, driven around that night. Or what happened to Madison? See what happened to Madison PD a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, I did. The mechanic that.
You want to know which shop it was?
I don't. Well, sure I do.
Delta.
Oh, wow. Delta Muffler.
And they're good. They're reputable. I've used them plenty of times, over the years. I mean, they're very good.
They are.
Back when Doc was alive, if I'm just going to say straight pipe is all I'm going to say. He would do it for you.
So.
But
they were a great shop growing up. I had a closer personal relationship to the muffler shop down the street at Auto Muff.
Can't believe they were so dumb to do that because that was a good account. That's where they don't have any muffler shops in Madison.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were, and everybody's going to say, well, yeah, because Mary won't let any there. Well, whatever, but that's who they were using. And that's a nice account to have. Mm-hmm. And you went joyriding in a car people would recognize.
Yes. Very easily spotted.
How dumb could you get? I mean, how dumb can you be? I mean, now, you're paying for that mistake now because I guarantee you, I already know they're not using them again. Yeah. They sent that car somewhere else to get fixed and worked on, and got a feeling somebody else had a good day is all I'm going to say.
Yeah. It stinks, and that's the hard part too. Is as a business owner, if that happened without the business owner's consent. And one person really put a hurt on their business because now they've lost business permanently from that due to one guy, whether they got rid of him on the spot or not. It's just
firing him isn't bringing that revenue back.
Isn't bringing that account back.
No. I mean, so I just found it. I found it. I mean, it was in a way it was a funny story. In a way, you just got when you found out who it was like, oh,
it's cringy. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very cringy. What about the employee? I mean, we talk about the employees, but I always love hearing the customer stories, and I've heard some doozies over the years. What are some of yours?
One of my favorites is one where there were two guests dining with us, and I was part of running the food to the table, and me and the server dropped the dishes at the same time, and one guest looks at the other guest and says, "Oh man, yours looks really good. I should have gotten that." Mm-hmm. And within 2 minutes, I was being called to the table because they didn't like their dish. And they didn't like their dish, but they hadn't even they literally hadn't even put a fork in it.
I hope you didn't.
And no, so it was a huge altercation.
What do you mean?
Because, well, I said, I'm so sorry you feel that you're not enjoying it, but I can also tell that you haven't touched it. So I'm not sure how you don't know that you don't like it. And
It's what
two,
you ordered.
it was prepared the way it was supposed to. 3, I was the one who dropped this dish off. You didn't even notice me. And I heard you tell your friend that that's what you wanted. And you expect me to pay for this dish that you ordered that's been prepared.
Did she know you were the
And
owner?
she did not at that time.
Which makes it sound like she's about to find out. So go on.
And so I said, I'll happily bring that in for you, and we can box this up, and you can take it home and enjoy it at a later date. That dish actually is going to travel very well because I think she got the lasagna and her friend got the Creole pasta. And so they were both pasta dishes. They're going to travel fine. They're going to hold well in the fridge. Everything's fine, but I'm not taking that hit. Well,
Nor should you.
Let me speak to the owner. Okay, hi, how are you doing? Oh, you're the owner? Yes, ma'am. and it, well, I'm going to call somebody. Well, there is no one you can call. Unfortunately, I'm going to call the Better Business Bureau. Well, good
Go
luck
ahead.
with that. Yeah, I mean,
like anybody reads them.
Yeah, do what you can. Leave bad reviews. I'll happily,
call the Better Business Bureau.
I get notified as soon as there's reviews, and I generally know who the 1 stars are. And I'm also happily to point to everybody on the internet that when you write a 1 star, some are legit, and I address those, and I'm apologetic. And if you're a horrible person and try to write a 1 star over something that's fake or, embellish it, I'm going to call out the facts and say, no, this is actually what happened. Let whoever else on the internet make up their own mind.
I'll tell you what, there's just one customer. I won't say her name because people are going to know her, but she'd picked on the wrong manager, bartender, waitress, whatever you want to call her. But Harmony over at Scrooge's.
Her name sounds familiar. I know her if I saw her.
Sister's Melody, and her mother ran the place for years, and so this one woman complained about something about her wig had disappeared or something like that, and she just trashed Scrooge's, and Harmony just put it up on her Facebook page and put her response on Facebook, and oh my gosh, it was like a nuclear bomb just went off, and
yeah.
I mean, you think you're being bad trashing us online, but
it opens yourself up just as
one
much.
smart thing, I remember one time it was Saltine actually a few years ago, and this young woman from Atlanta, she claims how they discriminate against her, racist stuff, and just made a scene. Well, first of all, the manager was black that night. She was asked to leave. Turned out her friends had gone into a bathroom, done cocaine, and then they had it all on video. A smart thing, though, that those guys did that own, because they also own, I think, Amerigo's, Char, is they said, you know what? We're going to let people, they had some activists contact them, said, tell you what, come see, here's the video, take a look at it. They were like, oh, shoot, okay, no problem,
Yeah.
And then, but like when I called them up, they were like, yeah, here's what happened, and they were very forthcoming about it instead of just hiding behind, oh, we don't want to make anybody mad or anything. It was, I think you're seeing more and more restaurant owners coming back and saying, that ain't the way it happened.
Yeah, this is what went down. So,
My pet peeve, go ahead.
You almost have to with cancel culture these days.
Yeah.
Because if something is real, you can get canceled really quickly. But a lot of times, everybody's jump to cancel culture makes you defend yourself in a legitimate way because it's like, no, this isn't what happened. This is not at all how it went down. And you can call me racist because I'm white, or our business is racist because it's white owned, when that's not at all the case, and everybody knows it. And
I had one time on my site where I put it on my website. It was from years ago, Georgia Blue, and I think Flowwood. They'd gone there and they brought their own birthday cake for someone's birthday, and man, Georgia Blue. Some restaurants will let you do that, but
we don't as well. We charge a cake fee.
I understand.
The flip side is for special occasions. If it's your anniversary, we're going to give you a dessert to share. If it's a birthday, we're going to give the honoree a dessert. They're getting a free dessert on us no matter what. Birthdays, anniversaries. We don't really do it for graduations. I guess that's the crux. But at the end of the day, you don't take food in anywhere else to any other establishment.
And they went,
and that's part of their revenue
of course,
stream.
Went to social media, did all that. And I put it on my website, and man, in the comment section, man, the hell they caught. You think people were going to take up for them? Nope, they were all taking up for the restaurant. It was like, you went there with your own food. What do you expect? Sorry they ruined your birthday was ruined, but it didn't have to be.
Yeah, it got ruined because you made a scene out of it.
Well,
had you just said okay and gone about your evening and not made a big deal and just focused on the occasion itself, everything would have been fine.
Well, one of my pet peeves is, in fact, I experienced it today at this Mexican place in Flora, is someone sitting at their table with their speakerphone just cranked up.
Oh,
You know, and they get more. I don't get mad at them. I get mad at the restaurants for allowing it.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be watching videos and all that kind of crap and having it cranked up. And I mean, you're sitting there, and if you're like at a burger joint or something like that, that might be one thing. Okay, really casual. But then when you go to a decent, mid scale or upper, you expect a little bit better. You're like, I don't want to hear this crap.
Yeah. Well, you expect somebody to say, "Hey, do you mind turning that down or putting some headphones in? You're disruptive of the dining experience of others around you."
Yeah.
That'd be much appreciated.
What happens in your restaurant when?
That would be the crap.
Now I know you've had people get mad about that because they do every time at other restaurants. So what?
You just,
what are some of the give me a couple examples of what people have.
You can
happened?
just ask them to leave. At most, if you approach them in a kind and courteous fashion, they're going to respond in like. Every now and again, you'll have someone blow up and get angry, and at that point, it's you know what, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to ask you to leave. Your meal has been taken care of.
Yeah,
I'll buy the whole thing because I'm telling you to
go.
GTFOH.
Wow. And then what do they say?
I'm never coming back. Well, I wish you the best of luck in your frontage road dining endeavors.
There's one restaurant here, and you can probably figure out which one it was because they also have a dress code.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady was sitting there on Saturday night, main dining room. Not just her phone on speaker, but she was doing a Zoom call on her phone. Yeah. And you could hear it loud and clear across the room. And so the owner went and, and the manager said, "Hey, you need to stop this." And she wouldn't do it. Then she starts screaming racism. And then she finally starts. Now, the woman was one of the owners. And so they sat there. The woman sat there and said, I want the owner. I don't want to talk to you. I want to see the owner. And the manager points at her and says, "That is the owner." And her face was like, "Oh shit." And I think they had to call the police on her to get her to finally. She made a damn scene.
That one.
Huh?
I said I might remember that one, and I do know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, but it's amazing how often that kind of crap happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was funny was, a couple of weeks ago, the Foxtail put on, and that's Madison's first in a long time. They're a truly nice restaurant, because they just haven't had them since times changed. I think shut.
Yeah.
That was very short since they closed. But anyway, so they put up this. We're going to do a dress code, and I can figure out why they're doing the dress code because people are coming in there wearing sweats and baseball caps and all that kind of stuff. And it's supposed to be a nice dining place. Maybe not most expensive out there, but it's supposed to be nice, like the Manship kind of is, right? And you should have seen the vitriol they were getting in the comments. Well, they don't. I mean, just racist this, racist that, dog whistles. I mean, they were just catching all kinds of hell for it. It was just like, and you could go down the comments and just almost break it down by race. You didn't have to look at if you look at the comment first, you could guess who the race was, the person making it pretty good. It was kind of a cultural thing. It's just really interesting to see. But I'll hear the stories about how
it's a fine
customers
line.
that just don't want to act right.
We're across from a hospital, so I mean, people are in scrubs.
Yeah.
People are, seeing family across the street, and for extended
But you don't have a dress
periods,
code
whether
like
they're
that either.
hospice. No, we don't. And
although I'm sure you don't allow tank tops and gym shorts and that sort of thing.
we try to be as tastefully dressed,
right?
Whether it's business casual or even just casual.
Mm-hmm.
We don't mind you just left the hunting camp and want to come through and grab something, or we're a neighborhood bar and grill, neighborhood restaurant with elevated cuisine.
By the way, what kind of Jack Daniels? And this is Jack Daniels, but this is not your regular Jack Daniels.
So this is a limited edition. I wanted to bring you something nice. So this is a limited edition Jack Daniels 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Jack is generally proofed at about 85 proof.
Mm-hmm.
This one's bumped up just a little bit to 97.
Nice.
And Jack at a higher proof is one of the most undervalued whiskeys in my opinion.
That's smooth and
it
doesn't have that Jack taste. You know what I mean?
And so, that's what happens when you get up in those proof points. And I generally drink 100 proof or higher, and that's just kind of my threshold. Whiskey has more flavor. I can always add water to it, or add ice. Bring that proof down a little bit. But if I grab something that's 90 or under, it kind of just taste like water to me. And
Wow.
so I would rather, I drink them neat at that point, but at the same time, I just prefer a higher proof bourbon that I can put a little water on, get it down to 100.
I like a good bourbon or rye, or
Yep.
I like a good rye also.
And Jack is one of those also interesting stories, if you like bourbon and whatnot, of is Jack Daniel's bourbon?
Is it?
Well, what would your answer be off the top of your head? Because
say
Jack
probably,
labels itself as Tennessee whiskey.
Right. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
The only reason Jack Daniel's is not a bourbon is
Mhm.
because they don't want to be.
Mm.
They want to be known as Tennessee whiskey.
That tastes kind of like a bourbon.
They are.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, they meet all 5 requirements of bourbon
Which
and
are?
could be called bourbon. So number 1, the bourbon is America's spirit. So it's made in America. Number 2, it's aged in a new charred oak container.
Mhm.
Number 3, it is distilled at no higher than 125 proof. It is not put in a barrel at any higher than 115 proof, and aged a minimum of 4 years.
4 years.
Or 51% corn. I forgot that part.
What's your favorite bourbon?
I don't have one. It
Well,
all
2 or
kind
3.
of. So my daily drinkers, for the most part, that are easily and widely available, are Wild Turkey Rare Breed, Knob Creek, and Johnny Drum, or one of the Willett family
Not familiar
entry
with
level
that one.
bourbons. Yeah, they're a great. Kentucky Bourbon Distillers is the official labeling of Willett Distillery, but they're non-Willett brands. Old
Mhm.
Bardstown, Kentucky Pure Kentucky XO, Noah's Mill, Rowan Creek. All of those are really phenomenal bourbons.
Mm-hmm. I've been drinking. What I like to drink has been I've always been makers, but also like Sazerac rye. They make a
Mhm.
really nice rye.
Sazerac does a
And
great
people,
job.
rye's just not that popular. It's just maybe 100 years ago it was, but it's just never really come back to that. It's just never really caught back on.
I love rye. I love the
Mhm.
spice and the backbone, and just it's kind of funny that you like Makers, which is a wheat bourbon,
I know.
and then rye,
I
which
usually
is
get the
rye.
stronger
So,
ones.
yeah. So Maker's Cask Drink's one of my favorite. I mean,
Mhm.
Maker's is really what got me into bourbon years and years ago.
Understand. Going back to Jackson. So let's get into the mayor's race a little bit. What was your take on the whole mayor's race?
I thoroughly enjoyed the clean run. Personally, I backed John Horn. So, I mean, I was
Why?
100% behind John. I felt that he was the right man for the job right now.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that in the candidacy and in the position that Jackson's in, John possesses the most skills applicable to bring us out of where we are and into where we can go. Through his tenure at the state in the Senate and his relationship with the state.
How long have you known him?
I've known John for roughly probably 20 years. I've known John since I've been in the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's been from Jackson and been around. I mean, I can remember taking care of John when I was at
He likes a
Julep.
good drink too.
And so, I mean, again, when I was at Julep, I can remember taking care of Senator Horn.
Okay, you were at Julep.
Yes.
What restaurants have you worked at?
In Jackson, I started out at Copeland's on Ridgewood Road as a
Oh, yeah.
busboy.
Very familiar with
was
that.
my very first ever restaurant job was Copeland's as a busboy. So I worked at Copeland's, I worked at Julep, I worked at Bruno's, I worked at Parlor Market, Bulldog, and Manship.
Nice. You've been around.
Mhm.
Copeland's. I love to go in that place, and what a lot of people didn't know is they did
Sunday jazz brunch.
that too. But a lot of people didn't know they did Bananas Foster, and they would do it like in New Orleans, like at your
Tableside.
table.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. Take a date there, and all right, let's get this, and loved it.
It was my first taste of sexual harassment. I was harassed by one of my managers way back when.
Guy or girl?
Guy.
What happened?
He just made quite a few inappropriate passes. That ended up being why I left that job.
Why didn't you just knock the shit out of him?
Because I was 15 and he was 30.
Oh yeah. Why didn't your dad knock the shit out of him?
Because I didn't tell, that was just
Dwayne,
that era
you didn't tell Dwayne
back then. No, you didn't say, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I get it. It's just you're young. You don't know you're supposed to fight back, or you don't know
Mhm.
how to. You know what I'm saying? You know, and you think
Yeah.
you're a kid and nobody's going to believe you anyway. I mean, so
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. And then Julep is the one that I missed. That was a great place to go to.
Yeah,
It
was
really
fantastic.
was.
And then I had all my friends were in the service industry, so we'd leave Julep and go down to Elixir, and
Elixir was a place I loved too.
so actually the guy whose motor I'm swapping, the bartender from Elixir, Cody Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still one of my great friends, and so it's his son's first car that we're putting a motor in this weekend.
What kind of car?
A 1989 Land Cruiser.
Oh, that's right. You said Land Cruiser earlier.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's got an old box style wagon, FJ62 as it's known.
I was gonna say because there's not many cars from the '80s you really want.
Yeah, and that's one of them.
Can you
It's
name of
just-
any? Can you think of any? Okay, I've said the '87 300Z, the Land Cruiser. Is there any others from the '80s you would actually want?
I'd say a Z, that
Maybe a Stealth.
well, and like an SL70 Mercedes.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean American cars.
mm,
I can't think of any.
well, I
mean,
think
'cause
it would fall in the same era, but like
The Mustangs definitely sucked.
because 69-ish, I think, was the cutoff of the Camaro and the Mustangs before they changed. But there may be some of those
But
early
the
years. of
'70s they looked all right.
Like,
They still,
you know,
they look. But when you get into the '80s, and the design just goes to hell.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mustang was just pitiful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it looked like it was filled with estrogen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean the other cars.
but then you get the late 80s, early 90s Mustang. The Fox bodies are still highly sought after.
yeah.
Uh,
But that's after they changed it.
Yeah.
I mean, those are sought after somewhat. And so you just don't see, like I said, I can't really think of many '80s cars
that were truly iconic. No.
I mean, my first car was a green '79 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and it was a beautiful car. But they were at that point with Cadillacs where they weren't good looking. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They just weren't, and you don't see anybody trying to get them either from the late '70s or '80s. I mean, after about '76, '77 or so, I mean, usually it's like the Eldorado convertible, but after that, you don't really see anybody trying to get older Cadillacs. You know, but back to Jackson, because I've digressed several times. Imagine that.
It's all right. But yeah, I just felt Senator Horn was the best person for the job. And so I'm happy he won. We've got,
But you've been also
whole new
outspoken
slate.
about Jackson's problems. I mean, over the years, why don't you get into that a little bit? Because
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
it's been for me just really hard to watch sometimes.
it's definitely difficult. With my dad's former position before he retired with the Chamber of Commerce,
Right.
working with city and state officials has always been, part of the family's job, and always try to be a resource and not a thorn and whatnot, and try to. I mean, that's why my businesses are in Jackson. It's why my home's in Jackson. It's part of my outlook and. Again, you mentioned my military service. I have no duty to retreat. I have no reason to leave Jackson. If I can stay there and be a part of the solution, I would rather be a part of the solution from the inside than trying to do it from the outside, because I don't think that it's disingenuous to try to fix it from the outside, but it's much harder when you don't live in the problem.
I totally agree. In fact, some of my readers get mad when they get tired of the Madison Ridgeland people trying to tell them about Jackson. It's like, you don't even come here, you don't live here.
Yeah.
Why should we even listen to you? Which I
You don't
totally understand.
I live 2 blocks from the restaurant. I live in Belhaven. I'm
Right.
very engaged in the community around us, and
But the crime was out of control for a while, and I really don't think if you didn't have Capitol Police, you would see some of the newer restaurants we're seeing, like Little Tokyo, Amerigo's, et cetera, come open up in Fondren or Belhaven. Because if you didn't have Capitol Police, I mean, I don't think you'd be seeing the success that you're seeing in several places.
I can agree with that. I mean, Commander Lucky's been a great resource for us, and has really helped the city of Jackson focus on other areas and take some of that patrolling off of their plate. So, I mean, overall, I think the CCID is a win. I see the other sides of it to say that it's a state takeover or this or
Well,
that.
but if you're not getting the job done, I mean, somebody has to do it.
Yes. Well, and unfortunately, Jackson Police Force is completely understaffed, and it's hard to recruit new officers. And so by helping that staffing side of things and being able to patrol those areas and allowing JPD to focus on the areas that they can, I think it's helped decrease crime around the overall community, which is a good thing for everyone. We can't. That's the other part is we can't arrest our way out of these
No,
problems.
that's what Chief Vance always. That's what Lee Vance always said.
And it's not just Chief Vance. I went through a program called the FBI Citizens Academy, which is the nonprofit wing of the FBI. It's fantastic. It is a 6-week, once a week, 2-hour program, 2 hours for 6 weeks, and you learn about every department within the FBI. You meet the special agent in charge of the FBI currently here in Jackson. There's one branch in every state, and then you have satellite offices. Like there's a satellite in Oxford, and I believe there's a satellite down on the coast. But they all answer to the SAC, special agent in charge of the state. And then there's a special agent in charge of the region, and then DC, special agent in charge of the FBI.
Did y'all get to go to the shooting range?
We did. We got to go to the shooting range. We got to shoot some of SRT's weapons. We got to watch them blow some stuff up. We got to learn about human trafficking, about counterterrorism, about all the things. And that's why they do it.
What stood out to you the most?
Human trafficking, honestly.
Why is that?
Because I didn't realize it's as prevalent as it is in our state. And you would be surprised how much human trafficking.
On this.
There is a lot of human trafficking that happens along I-20 and I-10 and Alabama and Mississippi and the coast.
And how are they defining human trafficking?
Illegal human trafficking, whether it's child prostitution, slave labor, kidnapping,
not just
other
sexual stuff.
It's not just sexual stuff. It is all kinds of things.
Right.
And there are people being moved around. And the young lady who was running human trafficking here was doing such a good job that within a year of them leaving, or a year of me going through the course, she got promoted and is now head of human trafficking over all of the Southeast. And so she runs human trafficking out of Birmingham now, her and her husband, who was in counterterrorism. So another fun fact about the FBI, they actually encourage inter-office dating.
Really? Why is that?
Because you both have the same security clearance. And so you can actually share and talk about your day at work versus having to come home and not being able to share things about your work.
And
with
if you
your
start
spouse.
getting shipped off to different parts of the country,
you can stay together as,
and it's not putting strain on your marriage or anything.
Yep.
Okay, that would make sense. And they've had lots of years to figure this out.
Yep.
Wow, I had no clue. You're a pretty outspoken person, kind of like me, but you're a businessman. You want to play nice with the city because you got to get things done. You got to get permits. You have to deal with them from time to time. When did you just finally said, screw it, fuck it, and I don't give a damn about this leadership anymore. We got to make a change.
Some of it happened during COVID. It was nice when Mayor Lumumba would actually, he had my phone number, would call and ask for an opinion on something as a business owner, and it was related to, again, restaurants and shutdowns and everything else. And I was not one that wanted to stay shut down. We needed to get our restaurants reopened. We needed to get revenues back up and all the things. And you call and ask for advice, but then you don't take it. And
the longer you're shut down, the greater the chance of your employees finding
going somewhere else.
Not just working for a competitor, but just getting out of the business altogether.
Which is
I've gone back to school. I'm in this business now,
Well, the world told the restaurant industry that we were non-essential, but every big box store was. It was crazy. Every retail giant in America was essential, but the restaurant industry, which is the second largest employer in the United States, wasn't. And so it really hurt the industry. And a lot of people, a lot of professional servers, that's when they left the industry.
And what got me was when Madison, Ridgeland, basically Rankin and Madison, they reopened pretty quickly.
As soon as the governor allowed.
As soon as they allowed it, is correct. And some of them actually made it work. Like Amerigo's made it work. They redo the menus, they adjusted, they really marketed the heck out of themselves when delivered to neighborhoods and stuff. It was different, more work, but they did pretty well. And the Kessler Prime, Lord, they did real well. And I know how they did it, but never going to repeat that. And there were other restaurants that did too, but then you had a lot that just stayed shut down for even longer than the shutdowns. Like Kingfish did not reopen for a long time until after the shutdown. And the only thing, I mean, what really got me though was Rankin Madison reopened, and then finally the mayor reopens Jackson. But the way he does it is, it's not like it's a good thing for you guys. It was he was bitch. He was watch the video. He's bitching on there about how, oh, we're having to do this. I mean, I don't want to do this, but we're having to do this because they're all reopening, and and everybody's gonna be going back and forth anyway. So I mean, I'm like, you freaking idiot. It's like he's telling his own business people, I want you to stay closed. I wish I could keep you closed. I mean, do you feel like
I
he
think
has your back when he acts like that?
I think he was more worried about the political optics at the time and trying to stand a party line versus doing what was good for his city. I think he was more
Yeah.
concerned with where he could go next.
And if you
than he
lose a bunch of
was.
businesses, oh well.
Yeah,
And we did lose some.
we did. It was a very rough time. Manship got extremely fortunate in
Mm-hmm.
the way everything played out. That we had an unfortunate kitchen fire, but it happened right before the world shut down, and so we were on an insurance claim.
Oh, nice.
And the insurance company even tried to get one over, and I said, no, you can't change the
Wait,
rules.
an
of it.
insurance company try to back out of a claim?
Yeah,
Imagine that, right?
And I was just like, you don't get to halftime and change the rules of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, unfortunately, that's where we sit.
Right.
And then there was some other things that helped lend to my case too, because it was like we could have gotten reopened faster, but y'all needed to investigate and y'all needed to do this. And then material shortages happened.
Yeah.
And so then we were waiting on steel and waiting on other things to get the ducts rebuilt. And then again, contractors were essential. So they all
Mhm.
kept working and even got busier because everybody started remodeling their houses and doing everything else. Granted, those aren't the same guys that were doing what we were doing, but they still had restaurants that were on schedule to open.
Yeah.
And so it was like we got put at the back of the line as a brand new project. And so we ended up reopening 2 days before the PPP launched was
Mhm.
kind of how it all fell out. So literally the 3-month shutdown window,
Mm-hmm.
we had a fire at like February 18th and it shut down on the 21st. And then we reopened June 2nd and PPP hit June 5th.
Wow.
And those are just, I'm
You
not
caught
sure
it
on those
right.
exact dates, but
You were living
they're,
lucky.
they're pretty close. Yeah. I mean, that we had definitely been living right with Jesus.
But like I said, and so that's when you started saying, all right, I'm tired of this crap.
Yeah.
What else?
And that was the beginning of the end. The
Take us
crime
through this.
the crime wave in Belhaven was a big one.
Mhm.
And during that time we donated a good portion of money to the Belhaven Foundation to try to get more blue light cameras
Mhm.
because that's when JPD was preaching blue light cameras and command center and
Oh yeah.
all those things. And then, thank goodness the foundation we tried to get some, but then we realized how ineffectual they were and that the cell phone cards weren't working and actually weren't transmitting data.
And then you gotta have
then
somebody
some
actually
of the other
watching.
stuff. Yeah. And they were understaffed, unfortunately, at the command center as well.
They were down below 150 patrol officers,
Mhm.
which what that means to the folks out there is at that number or below, you don't have enough officers to cover your beats, your normal beats. Okay. That means you have shifts that are going shorthanded. I mean, I know there was
Yeah.
nights in Northeast Jackson Precinct 4, you had only 2 cops for that night.
Mhm.
Or they would be staffed in 4, but then you'd have others that were really short. They moved them over.
Yeah.
So now you're short. I mean, but when you're below 150,
But that, no, I can't remember what year it was, but Commander McGowan left Precinct 4 and went
they
to
ran
work
they
for,
ran him off.
yes, they ran him off, and luckily he landed right across the street. So
Yeah.
he's now the captain of Baptist Security
Making
Forces.
a lot more money now than he
Uh,
was.
and again, I still have a great relationship with Commander McGowan and all those things. And
When he's in town, though, because he loves to go to concerts.
yeah,
He's always going, every time I turn around, he's going to a concert somewhere.
That-
Him and his wife, that's their thing. They love road tripping to concerts.
I think they were just at one this past weekend.
They were. And the week before.
So.
And the week before.
But it's nice because Baptist, that's another thing people don't realize is so we're on Baptist campus
Mhm.
and Baptist has a private police force and they actually have arrest authority and can carry guns and they do
Yeah.
carry guns.
And they've hired a lot,
And
several former JPD and deputies
former
also.
county deputies
Yeah.
and whatnot. And so we've got a great private security force with a 24-hour monitoring center. I mean, out of the 11 years that we've been open,
Mhm.
there's been 2 incidents. One was what I would call a doctor on doctor crime,
Mhm.
where a local
remember
doctor
that.
took a golf
I wrote
club
about
to
it
another
in the
doctor's
garage.
car in the
Yeah,
garage
I wrote
over
about that one.
maybe somebody who worked for one
Dr.
of them and
Moeller.
was dating another one.
He was one of
Uh,
them.
and then a crime of opportunity where we had, it might have even been a bachelorette party that was
Right.
there at close, and they were leaving, and it was, we had let them stay well past closing time while we were
Mhm.
cleaning and whatnot, and they were all exiting the building, going to their cars, and a car happened to be coming down State Street, saw them, keyed in on them, slammed on brakes, turned in, jumped out, grabbed 2 or 3 purses out of the 6,
Yeah,
and then got back in the car and drove off.
right.
Well, everybody in that group had an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Got Baptist PD on the phone, got Commander McGowan, got some other folks, used the Find My app. Within an hour and a half, due to the relationship with Baptist Security and JPD and Commander McGowan, they had recovered the stolen items.
Good luck trying to get that kind of cooperation from JPD now.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Well,
Good luck.
I say now. I think now is going to be even better than ever, because right now I think
Well, I mean,
the
before we
meetings
change
that we've
anything,
talked
okay,
to,
but
yeah,
I mean, how it has been the last couple of years.
yeah,
Good luck.
it
So,
had
way
been
Go ahead.
divided, and I think from a leadership standpoint of not wanting to help be at all inclusive between
Well,
Capital PD, Hines County, JPD.
I don't care what the chief says. I've written too many times about how JPD did not do their jobs. I mean, there was one case over at the country club where a man's taking his wife to work there. They're in the neighborhood, and he decides to stab her several times. So he takes off running. So later on in the day, some members spot him. They called JPD. Wouldn't come out there. They see him on the levee later that day. JPD won't come out. They come out there, but they would not go on the actual levee itself. Okay. Nope, we're not going to do it. So the guy wound up walking all the way to Old Canton Road to Palm Bridges, okay, that evening. And a couple of members tailed him just to see where this dangerous dude's going. And they called JPD again. They would not come over there. So finally they called the sheriff. They had his number, and he sent a deputy over there. They picked him up, all that stuff. My point being is I've heard this. There's numerous stories on my website about this over and over and over and over. And I mean, it's discouraging because it's like, you go to other cities. I mean, they work with you. Okay. I mean, they work with each other, but here it's,
Yeah.
It's like they don't want to work half the time,
Yeah.
and maybe that's not fair to say. I mean, but.
Well, and I hate it. I mean, I'm friends with a couple of officers, and I know that
there's
they
good
work
ones.
their tail off, and there's
I know they
great
do.
ones and good ones. And we at our Rotary Club, the Rotary Club of North Jackson,
Right.
actually meets in our event space every week as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we all honor an officer of the quarter.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the police reports that can be submitted are submitted for officers that go above and beyond.
Right.
And do those things.
I mean,
And we
there's
try
good
to
ones. Do not
honor
get me
those
wrong, but I see
officers,
too much of the other also. I mean, I still think they have a culture problem there.
I don't disagree,
Mhm.
but I never know either. Is that a leadership of that precinct, of that shift, of dispatch?
Good point.
Of what's happening there, because a lot of that I think is a communication breakdown as well.
You mentioned the Bellhaven carjackings and all that problems y'all were having for a while. What really pissed me off was, Matt Allen and his wife Megan West, they got carjacked on taking the kids trick or treating, and some of the mayor's people were getting online and just saying they made all that up, that didn't happen, blah blah. I mean, really?
No,
I mean,
it
that
did
just
happen.
really pisses you off when you see the people supposed to be protecting you actually saying this.
Well, and that was at the end, really, of a 3-month crime spree.
Oh yeah.
And the sad part is that it took Megan West getting mugged, because she's a TV persona, for actual effectual change to start happening. We were trying to be proactive in the neighborhood already at that time. Again, working with blue light cameras, trying to get Capitol PD. We actually just got an ordinance passed last council meeting that's hopefully going to allow us to do some traffic calming, because there's, I think, 32 entrances into Bellhaven.
Yeah.
From the perimeter streets. There's a lot when you go down Riverside and you go down State Street and you go down Fortification. And so we're looking and considering some key closures that I think 4 key access points around the neighborhood. And
Such
then
as?
going back to Gillespie, Whitworth on the Belhaven Heights side, and one of the Riverside streets are the first 3 proposed. And we've been working on neighbor communications and all of that, and we'll be pursuing that more foot because we have to have 60%, I believe, is going to be the threshold to get those. So 60% of the residents affected on that street will have to agree for that street closure.
While we're talking about the mayor stuff, you and Mr. Arthur Kane had a little falling out online.
Yeah. So
clue us in on that one.
I mean, again, it was right after the St. Patrick's Day parade. There, I believe, had been at least a single, if not a double homicide downtown, which was extremely frustrating.
I think it was one homicide. We had like 8 people shot.
Yes. And then
what do you think the problem was that day?
There was part of the cleanup. Well, the problem on parade day is that everything's associated with the parade. And while that instance later in the evening had nothing to do with the actual parade, nothing to do with the actual safety of that event. But again, when we're murder capital in the country, quite a few years running, it's hard to ignore. And so I quoted the mayor from his original inauguration speech that we're going to make Jackson a radical city. And so that was really what I think pissed a lot of people off. I said, I hope you're proud of your radical city. And then somebody else said something about the cleanup, and I said, actually, the city of Jackson didn't have anything to do with the cleanup, which they normally do. I'm a part of one of the marching crews. The marching crews in Howland Mouse did.
Oh, okay.
I slept in the day after the parade and woke up, or took a nap and woke up mid-afternoon and saw on the Facebook group thread for the marching crews that they were calling for trash bags and leaf blowers. And so the Otuxers and the Green Ladies and the Nugget League had gotten out and gone back through the parade route on their own with residential, just marching crews marching the route again with leaf blowers and cleaning it up and picking up all the trash. And I think, the city had called Mary Sanders Ferris, the owner of Howland Mouse now, and said that they weren't gonna do any more cleanup, that they had done what they were gonna do, and the rest fell on them.
Wow.
And it was just, and
I
may be summarizing
they
there,
didn't clean up much, did they?
No, I don't believe they did. That not near about what they normally do. And normally they do a very good job of cleaning because it is a great event for the city, a great event for the Children's Hospital. It generates a ton of tax revenue and brings a lot of people into town.
So Mr. Kane didn't take too kindly to those remarks, did he?
He did not. But, it's just one of those.
What did he say?
How he called me a racist and a bunch of things because I'm white. And so that's all I can figure. And
I mean, what else did he say though? Because I know him. He probably spoke for a while, but what all did he say?
I can't even remember at this point. It was a whole bunch of fluff, and I couldn't believe it because Other had been openly critical of the mayor for quite some time, and I've known Other for a very long time.
National shows and did it.
Yes, and so it was really odd to see the change in his tone.
It was
and
a 180.
It literally flipped on a dime.
180.
And again, I've known Other for years as well. He's been in my home. We've had meals together. We've broke bread together. The family that are mutual friends of ours that introduced the two of us are all really good friends. And I just couldn't believe it. At one point, that's when I kind of called him out. I was like, do you think so-and-so would feel good about this behavior? Deleted that comment, blocked me. And whatever. And then I was just like, oh, well, that's the end of a friendship. It is what it is. I hate it for him.
My favorite story about him is when he got evicted and the landlord kept all of his stuff. He had really expensive furniture. And the story, I'm not going to get into it here, but the story of how he got the furniture is really interesting. And, and the landlord saw it all and said, you know what? I'll just keep this. Even kept his clothes.
Wow.
Yeah.
He managed to
brother
get
didn't
himself
have it.
into some
He
things.
literally had just what was on his back, and that was it. I mean, that landlord kept everything. Everything. I mean, it was like, damn. I asked the landlord, I said, come on, his clothes? He says, no. He'd played me enough times, and he owed me, he cited a large sum of money. It wasn't a few $100s, obviously, or just a few thousand. And he says, okay, you want to play this way? No problem. I'll just keep all your shit. And then what was funny, though, was seeing the night after the runoff, he was whining about how this had been a really divisive, really nasty race. And I'm sitting there thinking, you blankety blank. who's the one who made it nasty? The only person being nasty was you and your friends that work for the mayor. You didn't see the horn people getting out there and saying crap, or the other people getting out there. It was you and your crowd that was doing all this. And then now you're wondering, it was too nasty. Well, go look in the mirror, Buttercup, you know?
Yeah, I mean, after the primary, I don't remember there being any mudslinging between any of the candidates.
No.
I mean, DePriest didn't attack John. John didn't attack DePriest. Like,
no, but,
you know, like it was.
Well, I'm
I
talking about
agree
the
with the
I'm talking about the
divisiveness and
runoff
everything
election,
else.
though. I mean,
Yeah.
in the runoff, but it was really the mayor's people who were like Danielle Holmes and Other and others who were just getting out there and they're on the warpath. I mean, how dare you? And Omari. I mean, and Dorsey Carson and Omari and Danielle Holmes just got into it. One day he endorsed John Holmes, and here they came on his Facebook page. I mean, just letting him have it. He gave it right back to him, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, Dorsey's not scared.
No.
You know?
No, he can take a punch and he can throw one right back at you.
Yeah.
And he will.
So, and I love Dorsey and Susan. They're two of my favorite Jacksonians.
Oh, their character's all right. Although my favorite things about him is when he's at the Bob Dylan concert, I think he got into it with the security and he starts saying, look, I'm Dorsey Carson. Do you know who I am? It's like, when you're in security or a cop, do you know how many people say, do you know who I am? Do you know who I know? And by the way, do you ever watch any of the YouTube or Facebook videos, short skits or anything?
Every now and again.
There's some about the restaurant business that are really good. There's this one called Marianne Faith. She's this really pretty brunette that lives down in I think Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And she does all these. She's worked for a long time in restaurants. She's only like late 20s, but you can tell she's worked for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's been, and her husband's Mexican, and she says she's worked in Mexican restaurants. And so she just does these skits involving, they're all taken from problem customers she's had over the years, and they are hysterical to watch. I mean, everything you're just saying. I mean, she's, the ones who want to change out their food for nothing, who, hey, well, I don't care if you have a line of people and it's a 45-minute wait. You're going to put me in front of everybody right now. I mean, it's just, some of that stuff is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And you were also in the service. When and where did you serve?
So I was in from 03 to 06. Was stationed out of Fort Lewis, Washington.
Which branch?
Army Infantry.
Oh, so you went to Benning, huh?
Yes, sir. So
you were an 18 Bravo.
11 Bravo.
11 Bravo,
18's the Special Forces series. Right. But yeah, trained on Sand Hill. Got lucky enough in my contract that I did get airborne school guaranteed.
When you went to the airborne part, what did you think the first time you saw those towers and those red lights blinking on them?
I thought that was crazy, but they pretty much don't use them. Like only
usually the wind's too high.
Usually the wind's too high. I think
it's like 12 knots. That's
out of our whole class. I think they dropped 2 guys out of them one day.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, the conditions are optimal. We're going to do this just to show y'all what it looks like. And outside of that, you just basically jump off of an 8-foot tower and learn how to fall correctly.
I remember when they brought me in, when I came in for that, we had a late flight. So our shuttle was like midnight or so. And you see those red lights blinking in the dark way high up. And they're going, what's that? Oh, those are the towers. You do those week 2 of jump school. You're like, oh shit, what have I gotten myself into? Yep. You're like, oh boy. So then you find that, and we never did them because usually it was just too windy, so we didn't do them. But man, Did
they joke when you were in, cramming 3 days of training into 2 weeks?
No, actually, they didn't. Actually,
because airborne school is really not difficult at all.
Not now. It's not now.
They've
watered it down a lot.
I'm sure they have. But it was, again, you could learn it in a few days, and everything's taught at a 5th grade level in the military.
Has to be.
And so.
And then you have to run every word at a 9-minute mile pace. They still do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the beauty of coming from Sand Hill and coming from infantry basic training is that we're in the best shape of our lives.
Yeah.
And then you have all of these E5s to E8s and E9s that aren't infantry, that need to make rank, that have to get to school for the points.
Yep.
And then you have the O's that are doing some of the same things that need it for their boards.
My favorite were the butter bars, because they would some of them would get kind of uppity, and first lieutenants, no second lieutenants, and they would just, what do you mean I didn't do that right? They would just challenge the black hats, and the black hats would like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. You didn't do this, sir. Go back to the end of the line, sir.
Yeah, I love the
And heaven
Sergeant
help you if you tried to pull rank and go whine to the CO about it because you were going to.
Because our black hats would key on us, the young privates from infantry, and be like, "How many push-ups can you do, Private? I don't know, Sergeant Airborne. How many do you want me to do?" And like, "You can't smoke a rock, Sergeant Airborne," and all the things that you say back then, and because we were in great shape,
After
and it
day
was just
3,
fun to watch.
they quit calling me by my roster number and started calling me by name after day 3. They knew me by name.
I flew under the radar.
Lucky. Which company were you in?
I think I was in Charlie Company.
I was in Alpha.
I was Charlie Company almost all the way through. I was Charlie Company in basic, Charlie Company at Airborne School, and then Charlie Company at my unit.
I didn't get a piece of the rock.
Yeah.
I mean, I always heard about Delta Company and the rock, but nope, never got that.
I didn't either.
But it was just, you don't forget that first time you jump out either. It's like, got every emotion going through your body at one time.
So where were you in your stick?
Huh?
Where were you in your stick on the plane? Were you first out, second out?
You think I remember that? I wasn't first. I can tell you that. I wasn't first or second. No, I was in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. So
thank goodness.
And I'm
getting ready to jump out. All of a sudden, I make sure doing my stuff right.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I feel a boot in my rear end. And the next thing you know, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000.
I got lucky. I was towards the middle on, I think, one of the 3 or 5 jumps, but for the most part, I was first or second out the way my name fell in the alphabet.
Oh, man.
And it was great because there was very little hesitation. You just, at that point, like you were at the front and you didn't want to hold everybody else up behind you. So you were just going out.
Yeah. And the second times, for a lot of people, was harder because now you know what to expect. Now you know what's coming. It's like, oh, shit, I got to do this all over again.
They closed our jump zone. And we ended up graduating on a weekend.
Oh, man.
Because the wind was so, you know where I'm talking about, on the landing zone in the LZs, just that long strip. Well, they were flying like 300 meters away from the landing zone, and the wind was blowing so hard it was still carrying guys into the other tree line. And they had 2 guys get injured on like the first 3 jumps, and so they closed it down.
We had one thing that was cool about the drop zone was, landing drop zone was there's a sign, I think it was "Welcome to Alabama, drop on in" or something like that. You're sitting there floating, and did you see that sign?
I don't know if I did.
Yeah, you see that sign. It's like, "Drop on in." You're like, bastards, And what's funny is though you get to you think you're going to just be paralyzed with fear, but there's another level of fear above that. You find out that you are so scared, you remember everything you were taught, and your awareness is so hyper that you really you don't freeze. You remember everything and you do it.
Yep. I mean,
then you realize I'm going to live.
I still tell people to pull their head out of their 5th point of contact.
Oh shit! Like I said, after day 3, because I in the practice, the PLFs. Suspended agony. How do you forget that?
Yeah.
Oh man, suspended agony was no fun. But when you sit there, and I just kept on screwing up in practice. I just could not get it right. But then when it came time to test, I was the first one. I nailed my first 12 out of my first 13 PLFs. Never forget. After about number 7 or so, and I've got the best record in the whole. And the black cat just says, "Oh, you're one of them." He says, "Okay, Michael Jordan, just everything you're throwing up is going in." Okay, he says, "All right, you're one of them who." Okay, and after that he left me alone after that for the next 2 weeks. But what was funny one time was this butter bar. He's from the 101st Airborne. Flunked first week.
Oh.
And he'd be getting off that. He'd be jumping, doing his PLFs, and his feet would be like that far apart. That far apart. And then
gonna break an ankle.
Feet apart. And then exactly. And he just looked at that. He just looked at like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" He's like, "Feet apart, sir. Go back to the line, sir." I mean, they loved it when officers try to get out of line with them. They love that one. So after jump school, infantry training, then what?
Then Fort Lewis.
And where's that?
Just Washington State.
Right.
It's now Joint Base Lewis McChord. So showed up there, was assigned to a striker unit. And so we were the strikers, the 8-wheeled light armored troop carrier.
Okay.
That became like the new Bradley kind of. They don't consider us mechanized, just light mobile infantry. And so we were actually the 2nd unit in the U.S. military to deploy with that vehicle.
Wow.
And so when we deployed to Iraq, we flew into Baghdad. We signed over the vehicles from the first group that had been there. Like, we didn't take our vehicles with us to Iraq. We had
Right.
trained in them, but we got basically what were first generation strikers and took those over in Iraq in Baghdad. And that's right when the war effort on Fallujah was kicking up. And so we were assigned to the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. I can actually wear a 1MEF combat patch because we
Get outta
were
here.
attached to 1MEF to go and raid Fallujah. And so we rolled outside of Fallujah. We set up an outer cordon, which is the outer perimeter around the city, and we're running a traffic control point. And we're getting our traffic control point set up. We're all digging our holes because we're going to be there for 3 or so days before we move into the city and then assist in clearing. And right as we're getting set up, battalion commander rolls up in a striker, and we start getting mortared. Well, my battle buddy, my squad mate, is digging his hole, and the command sergeant major jumps in my buddy's hole and says, "Find cover, Bobcat." And I can never forget my buddy Dixon says, "Sergeant Major, you're in my cover."
Ouch.
And so we got mortared for a minute, and then it let up. And they do as
What
they
did
do.
you
Just
think when
popped
you're
off a
getting
few
mortared
rounds.
the first time?
It was it's an interesting experience. I mean, you're helpless. I mean, either they hit you or they don't, and that's when you just know it's, at that point it's Lord's will. If a mortar drops directly on
You
top
start
of you,
getting an
there's
idea how they
nothing you
felt
can.
in the trenches
Yeah,
in World War I.
yeah.
Like just sitting there and you can't.
Especially when we're out in an open field and there is no cover. You're literally we were out there with e-tools digging our holes because that's where we were going to be.
What's it like to feel that helpless?
I mean, it is what it is. You're in the
seriously.
moment. I mean, you're looking for where the enemy is, where they shooting at me from. But I mean, it's a mortar, so it's coming from a ways away.
Yeah.
Then we were there a couple of days, and we were actually about to run into the city and start clearing the city. And they sent a fragmentary order, or frago, and
What's that?
of the what?
I'm
Just
asking
a
these
change-
questions for the
for
listeners.
the listeners. A fragmentary order is a change of direct order. And so they gave us an order to go into the city, and then
do this.
and then up frago, which means go do something else.
Yeah.
So they sent a fragmentary order.
Army's good about
And
that.
So then our whole brigade went back to Baghdad, packed up an entire brigade in 72 hours. We had to be from Fallujah to Mosul. And the entire brigade had to pack up in 72-hour time frame and drive 5 hours north on one of the death highways with everything, and then move to Fob Marez at that time.
Did y'all get fired upon?
We did not. Not on that trip. We didn't. We had air support, which was nice. So it's always nice when you have the helos above and IR and all the things that they've got. So we had Apache and Kiowa support on that drive. And that wasn't one of the highways. It wasn't one of the highly IED'd highways. And then out of the whole brigade, 2 companies got split out. Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry, which is where my best friend from Brandon was. They got sent to a castle in Talifar. And that castle is one of the places Chris Kyle went, American Sniper.
Right.
Because that's where that sniper was that he had to hunt down up there. And so that sniper was active while my buddy was in Iraq. Then Chris Kyle was there. And then the other company that got split out from 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry Regiment as well, which was our battalion. So a brigade is 4 battalions. For those of y'all that don't know, the Army is organized in everything of 4. There's 4 guys in a fire team, 2 fire teams in a squad, 4 squads in a platoon, 4 platoons in a company, 4 companies in a battalion, 4 battalions in a brigade, and so on and so forth. Well, brigade's pretty much the largest organizational structure, but 4 brigades on a base,
Right.
and then 4 bases in a command,
Of course.
if you want to go all the way up. But so Charlie Company, which was our company, got sent to a little town called Hammam Alil. And Hammam Alil was 30 miles south of Baghdad, or Mosul, but it's where a lot of the rich, and it didn't look like a rich town. I mean, you have to understand this. They weren't living in mud huts. They were living in more of a brick concrete structure. But the financiers and the planners lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to develop some really good intelligence out of that town. They ended up attaching a special forces group
Yeah, the people
to our
who
base.
handle and follow the money generally know what's going on.
Yeah. And so we ended up getting this SF group, an A team and a B team attached to our little company-sized outpost. And so we did that, and then we operated a retrans site that one platoon rotated, and we helped secure the radio transmission site on the top of a mountain. And so we had a couple of different patrol plans during that era. Towards the end of the tour, we pretty much pulled out of Hamamalil, and we rotated in there as a platoon and rotated into the retransmission site as a squad level. And then everybody else, we actually got a sector in Mosul that we patrolled.
How long were you over there?
A year and 10 days from door to door. That was basically Kuwait to Kuwait. It was a year and 10 days.
Lose many friends?
Yeah, a few. So during that time, that the Chow Hall bombing in Mosul, which is still the single deadliest attack on Iraqi soil, that was our unit's Chow Hall.
Oh, man.
And literally
how many did y'all lose that day?
We lost, I think, 13 that day in just our brigade or our battalion.
What would y'all think when you would see, like, Rumsfeld and some of these others saying, there's no insurgency or there's no this or that, and, you know, you're safe in the green zone, things like that? I mean, what would you think when y'all heard that kind of stuff?
I mean, it's crazy, but there really was no green zone. I mean, there may have been in Baghdad. We didn't see it.
Yeah.
We did see a green zone in Dahut, where the Kurdish are. And so that's where
they don't play.
Yeah, the Kurds do not play.
No.
And that's where some of the SF guys were based out of, based on some of the vehicles we saw and other stuff. We went there to buy some office supplies that the S shop needed, and they needed escort, of course. So we got attached to go there and whatnot. But that was, best worst time I ever had.
So you did one tour, correct?
Yeah, one tour.
What made you join the Army?
9/11, literally.
Really? What did your father? And his father, by the way, is Dwayne O'Neill. He's the retired president of the Jackson Chamber of Commerce, Greater Jackson Chamber of Commerce. So, you weren't growing up on the wrong side of the tracks. Let's just say that. Okay. So what made you join?
Mom and Dad thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
They literally threw everything at me but the kitchen sink. I talked to our pastor, I talked to my youth counselor, I talked to other mentors that I had, and everybody came back and told him, like, he's kind of doing it for the right reason. Like, he's,
Oh, look, when I decided to join, man, my mother, I mean, the neighbors, I mean, they were all trying to talk. Don't do this. Don't do this. I mean, sorry, I want to do it.
Yeah. And so that was, I was at Mississippi State. 9/11 happened, and shortly after that, I dropped out of college and joined the Army.
Did you ever go back?
No, I did not.
Okay. What were you majoring in?
I was majoring in accounting, was my original major.
Oh, I remember those days.
But I hadn't even gotten into any of that. I mean, I was a sophomore and was not doing well. I'm not going to say like I was some straight A student at State. I
minored in business, so I took a year of accounting, 1 and 2, and I know what a debit and credit is. I'll put it that way.
So part of the reason I didn't get a degree is because I was failing so bad at State that when I got out and went back to Holmes Community College to knock out some core classes and save money on my GI Bill, I had taken an English summer class after my senior year and then transferred it up to State because I was really trying to just start over fresh.
Right.
As never been to college.
Yeah.
Well, because I went back to Holmes, they were like, we need your transcripts from State. And I was like, no, I don't. Just let me start over as a true freshman. They were like, no, it doesn't work like that. And so when I transferred my transcripts back, even with a 4.0, like a straight 4.0, I was still on academic probation.
How?
Well, GI Bill doesn't pay if you're on academic probation. And so I had to pay all my tuition back. And so it was one of those gut check moments in my life.
Did you pay it or your dad pay it?
I paid it.
Okay.
And I paid all my student loans that I had.
Yeah.
And so I took a gut check, and because at that point I think I was 28 years old. Because I didn't join until I was 21, and then I got out and hadn't gone back to school right away. Just wanted to get my feet under me and work for a bit and stack some cash because the GI Bill was going to pay, but wasn't going to cover everything.
Right.
And so I looked at it and I was like, by the time I graduate, I'm going to be 32 years old with zero experience in the workforce.
You're ready to start moving on with life.
Yeah. And so it was one of those where I just took a gut check and I was like, I think I can put my head down and work hard and get where I want to be without a degree, because I know plenty of self-made men who have done it that way, and ended up being the path that I chose. And so at that point, I focused more on my restaurant career and trying to get into management. And then I also got licensed to sell real estate during the day. But right then was the bottom of the housing crisis. Like the bottom had just fallen out.
You know, timing is not your middle name, okay?
Well, a different outlook is why are you getting into real estate? The market just fell apart. Well, 90% of the agents also got out of the business. I've never known the market. It can only go one direction, up. And so that was my outlook. And so I sold real estate by day for a few years and was bartending and serving and managing by night. And I figured within a few years, one was going to take off faster than the other. And it did. It happened. And
how much do you think your military background has helped you?
Oh, 1,000%.
How so?
Task conditions and standards. Just, standard operating procedures, other things, drive, focus, adapt and overcome,
and
all of those things.
Problems don't freak you out as much.
Yeah. No, after you've been shot at, there's not a whole lot of things that freak you out there as much.
I imagine not.
So
I've been lucky so far.
I joke and people are like, what's it like getting shot at? And I'm like, well, the bullet's close when it whistles.
I was going to ask you if you heard it.
It's really close when they crack, and it's almost more of a pop. That literally means it was like within an inch.
What do you mean?
So a bullet that whistles by you,
yeah,
is generally within about a foot of you. A bullet that pops like that and doesn't whistle means you were that close.
We're talking Trump level here.
Yeah. That's the difference in the sound
when you saw that?
Incoming. Craziest thing ever. How did it happen? Why?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my mind.
I couldn't believe he missed the shot from that range.
Opens itself up to conspiracy theories and whatnot.
I couldn't believe he missed the shot.
Yeah, I mean, had the guy had a scope, it would have been a whole different ball game. I mean, he was shooting iron sights from a very close distance with any amount of training. That was a kill shot.
Yeah.
And again, had he not turned his head right when he turned his head, he would have been dead. Like he turned his head at the exact right moment.
I don't even want to think of what would have happened if that had happened.
Secret Service and counter snipers and everything else, I mean, that whole team, I'm pretty sure no longer has a job.
Well, I think a couple of them probably do.
Maybe.
One of them did nail him.
Yeah. I mean, one of them did, but the job was to not ever let him get a shot off.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. So.
And I mean, because I even remember a lot, the military in me and the infantry in me goes back, and I was pulling up Google Maps and looking at the logistics of that location and where we would have put people. Like, if this is my thing, and because we had to oversee the elections, we had to do some things while we were there.
Yeah.
Where that type of policing and not patrolling was our mission. And how you leave that building unsecure, how,
I still can't believe it.
None of it makes
And then the director saying, well, it was at a slope. It's like a 10-degree slope. And we didn't want anybody getting hurt. Bullshit. Lying bitch.
Yeah.
And that was the one time it's been a long time since we've seen Democrats and Republicans come together on something, because on those hearings they had with Secret Service, I mean, they were all ripping them, because I think they all realize, if they're this incompetent, that could be our guy getting shot.
Yeah.
I think they all realize that. That could be our president getting shot instead of, or one of us getting, so they were like, it was encouraging to see, actually, but geez, I mean, when you just go back and look at it, I mean, you're just like, what the hell? I mean, I'll be honest, I'd have made that shot. You probably would have made that shot, We both we got a lot of friends who would have made that shot. I mean, it wasn't that hard of a shot to make.
No.
It really wasn't. And yet, that clown, thank goodness, I don't even want to think, like I said earlier, what would have happened if he'd have succeeded, because it had gotten worse than ugly, I think, in this country. I really do.
Yeah, I think it would have set off.
There'd have been retaliation.
Yeah. It would have set off a whole different
You
kind
couldn't
of
have told
movement that
people.
would have.
You couldn't have told people, okay, here's what happened. There's not a conspiracy. Oh, hell no. I mean, there'd have been people said, we don't care. Time to go to war.
Yep.
And I hate to say that, but I really think that's where we were at the time.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it could have been a powder keg and would have been
Well, thank goodness it didn't happen.
in some other form of civil war.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Looking
Great-
forward to eating your
great
restaurants
chatting.
again. And
Yeah.
I love, and every time I drive by Aplos, I mean, in Highland Village and also out here at Renaissance, I mean, they're jam packed. It's really cool. I wish y'all could do this at Highland Village, but I love how they have that greenery right there by the in Renaissance. You see all these families out there and kids playing and stuff. It's really nice to see. But
We've got the courtyard. It's just not green.
But it started with you guys, though.
Yeah. So.
Well, they've actually had to shut off some of the green.
Oh yeah.
They've put tables. You know why? I mean, parents wouldn't control their kids.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one night. I mean, he was just throwing his beanbags or whatever at people, or football, whatever, ball at people, and the landlords told them, the owners told them to. I won't say their names, but the owners told them to stop. Of Renaissance, and here comes mommy and daddy is who do you think you are? Well, and they finally just said, we're the owners. We can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Huh? I mean, you just hate seeing that crap. So, but y'all really,
it's not just a let them run wild. I mean, there's a feeling of safety and yes, let them have fun, but at the same time,
target practice is not a good idea either. But anyway, y'all have created something really nice over there with Aplos. It's really been nice to see. And y'all have also have the manship. So hopefully this new administration is going to bring y'all some much needed stability and, and rising tides lift all boats. And hopefully this will bring in some more boats. So thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.